Is that possibly your sweetest win as United head coach, manager?
Yeah, it was a tough game for us today. I think we knew that really coming. It was never going to be the perfect kind of game for us. We gave it kind of less than 2 weeks, so we knew coming here we were going to have to kind of draw on so many different things to get a performance to then be able to get the result. And it was up and down at times. There was some really good things in the game for us, things we can work on, but the way the boys were, the belief, the confidence, the spirit, everything that came together made me really proud today.
I mean, it felt like Arsenal fans were quite edgy, 1-0 up and they're going for the time. Do you feel as though you capitalised on that edginess, that anxiety in the stadium?
I just think we understood of the game, the flow of the game, and at times, we're going to be feeling a little bit up against it and digging in, and then we wanted to try and take control as well. And away from home, in these big games, you got to take an element of control and calm things down a little bit. And I thought we did enough in the game to then grow into the game, and the goals were fantastic goals, and some of the football was good, and we looked dangerous at certain times. Other times you had to defend, but it was just a performance with a bit of everything, really.
Chris,
could you ever have thought that your first 2 games would end up with wins over at Man City and Arsenal?
Yeah, well, I understand there were two tough games to start with. We've got tough games coming up, so it's I understood that, but best ones to win, so in terms of getting that feeling and that emotion and that confidence and that lift, so yeah, the boys have been fantastic, as I said, lasting 2 weeks together to put things in place and to try to do the things we've asked, and as I said, there's still layers that we want to get to and we want to improve, but in terms of kind of what it's taken to win these 2 games, we're
getting carried away, but I reckon there will be plenty of Manchester United persuasion who will be getting carried away. Could you have imagined when he took over, with those 2 fixtures looming, City at home, Arsenal away, that he'd come through that with 6 points?
No, not on any front. Not on the front of getting the points, not on the front of seeing the levels of performance. No, you wouldn't have expected that. It's been a remarkable turnaround, and you actually wonder how, in the short space of time that he's been in, he's been able to put that performance level into those players and how they've transformed it from what has been, to be fair, absolute guff that we've been watching for 6 weeks prior to it, to now watching what is real performances with a real familiarity to it with regards to the system, how they're going to play, the intensity of it, in control of games without the ball, and then obviously big moments in matches scoring goals. So I don't know what's happened. I mean, you 2 have been managers more than I have. What could he have done in that period that basically has meant that Manchester United team have transformed from what they were to what they are? Because, to be fair, these 2 performances have been fantastic.
Well, I think it helps if you've got your best players available.
That's definitely significant, isn't it?
That's a big plus for him. And people like Maguire coming back in, you got your attacking options. The fact is, City had a bit of a weak game, Arsenal had a bit. All these little details do help. Because the one thing you would say with United's last 2 performances, they've certainly played with a lot of energy. They've had that look about them. It's the first time I've looked at them, because all talk during the season was United had no real distractions. But when I was watching the games, it looks like they've got loads of distractions. They weren't playing on the front foot. They weren't playing with loads of energy. But the last couple of performances, they certainly looked that way. And certainly their confidence and belief from the last performance today, even from the first few minutes, there's something about them. Again, the players go back to playing their positions. A settled team, they played the same 11 from last week. And confidence and belief in players is huge.
Last week you said, Roy, it's 1 result.
No,
it's just 2. 1 result.
Yeah, no,
now it's 2 results.
2 big results.
And at what point did then it become irresistible that Michael Carrick has to become a really strong part of this conversation about United's future?
I think if United win every game from now till the end of the season, I still wouldn't be giving him the job.
Why?
I just think they need something, a bigger, more experienced manager. Simple as that. Carrick could win every game. Timing coming into the job was fantastic for him. And he said he's enjoying it. You enjoy management when you're winning football matches, of course. But I think the size of the club and the challenges they face over the next few years, because really, I know I've heard Jamie Carragher mentioned the last few weeks, you want a manager you feel will come in and get Man United winning league titles. Are we all going to sit here and believe Michael Carrick can get United winning league titles?
Well, we've only got evidence of the last 2 weeks.
I know, but that's still not enough for me. If you think on the back of 2 wins he warrants the job, then that's your opinion, and I'm entitled to mine. I don't believe he's the man to get Man United back winning league
Sometimes,
titles.
does previous experience matter, Patrick? Everyone's talking about a more experienced figure, and Gary has made that point as well. But sometimes does the job fit?
Yeah, I think you have a young manager, maybe with no experience, who deserve to have a chance. I think you look at that Inter de Milan with Christian Chivu, who is on the top of the league in the Serie A, and he's doing a good job, and I think he will win the league. So I think a young manager can be successful in a club like Manchester United, and through his career at United, and of course he will learn. But I think in the last 2 games that he played against City and against Arsenal, we saw some really good decision making. And when you look at today, the injury of Doku, and then he bring another striker, maybe another manager will go a little bit more defensive and to accept to defend. But no, he put one more striker, and I think that is brave from his part, and it's not an easy decision. So I think he deserves to have a chance to manage
but Patrick,
United.
we discussed this last week. There's loads of examples of young managers getting an opportunity and doing really well. But there's more examples of managers getting a job and not doing well. You can all handpick. We could pick 5, 6 managers here, young managers who've gone into a job and done a brilliant job.
But
there's loads of examples of managers.
I don't think.
And you mentioned clubs
I don't think
they're different to Man United.
I don't think being young
or inexperienced,
inexperience should be enough. Pep Guardiola was at Barcelona, second team, and
I can name you 50 examples where managers got a job and they didn't work out. Everyone mentions Pep or Zidane.
But he deserves a chance.
I think
then time will say if he's good enough for United or not.
Look, I played with Michael Carrick for a number of years, and to be fair, enormous amount of respect, time for him, love for him. I think he's a really good person. He's a fantastic football player. He's understated. He's composed. He will not get too high or too low. A few weeks ago, before the first game, I think everybody in football thought that a really successful thing would be for Michael Carrick to hold the baton for the rest of the season, do a really good job, put some happiness back into the players, put some happiness back into the fans, put the happiness back into the team, get the performance levels and try and get them into Europe. And if he does that, hand the baton up. That was what everyone was thinking 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. Manchester United have acted emotionally a number of times in this last 10 to 12 years. I honestly could not be happier about the last 2 weeks. It's the familiarity feels to me like I'm watching my team play again, properly. Forget the fact they've won the games. They've just played properly how I would expect them to play, with an intensity, an energy and a quality. So I think it's right that Michael Carrick, to be fair, keeps the job to the end of the season, hands the baton over to a Thomas Tuchel, a Carlo Ancelotti, someone of that world-class still. That's what his job is now. Michael's an unemotional guy. He'll realise that what I'm saying here is something that I said 2 weeks ago.
Surely winning matters, Gary. You just said they're the fact the way they're playing. They played at Bournemouth a few months ago and they drew 3-3 at home. And you said you were pleased with that. But you're at Man United. The reason you play for these big clubs, it's about winning football matches.
Yeah, I get that, Roy. But to be fair, you also at that club need to be entertained. You cannot play drab football that's boring and, to be fair, that's really difficult to watch.
We've got to go, unfortunately. They're turning the lights out on us as well.
NFL on us.
We are passing on to Super Sunday Extra Time. That is coming up next.
Sorry, I'm not putting pressure on
Bye for now.
I'm not putting pressure on Arsenal. He said now or never.
OK, Manchester United. What's suddenly so right about Manchester United?
I mean, what a remarkable week. I've had an amazing 8 days, actually. Just coming into a game this morning, I did the Sky Sports News interview, coming down with a bit of enthusiasm and optimism that I actually didn't think Manchester United would win today. I didn't. But I thought they would give a good account of themselves, but I thought Arsenal might just be too good for them. I wanted to see the same intent, aggression, compactness that I saw last week out of possession, and I wanted to see, well, we're never going to see, I think, the same level of football going forward, but glimpses of it and moments that meant that they could actually be competitive. And I thought they'd score, Manchester United. I thought that definitely they would score. I'm absolutely blown away by what I've seen in 8 days, because you can't believe how low and how bad it was a few weeks ago in terms of some of the performances that we've seen. And there are a number of things that have changed. The intensity, the compactness, the aggression of the defending, their willingness to get behind the ball together and be difficult to beat and dig in when you're in difficult moments of the game. And there's more of that today than there was against City. I thought they played better football against City, but they were always going to have to dig in here more. In that first 25 minutes when they didn't have a lot of the ball, they didn't really, to be fair, lose too many chances. There was the one header, I think, from Zubamendi, wasn't there, with the Laman's tip over. But other than that, they controlled the game without the ball. and then they just started to play a little bit. But the big thing for me is that they've got a threat up front. They've got a group of players who are talented up front, who are also getting back and helping their defenders, who are digging in. The wide players are getting back and helping their fullbacks. The fullbacks are getting out aggressively against Saka and against Trossard. The things I said last week, Mainu and Casemiro, it was a tougher game for them today, but they still at times look to play those lovely bits of football. Again, a tougher game for Bruno Fernandes and then Burma, but again, moments in the match, they delivered. And what they did today was score some sensational goals. The first one was a really good goal from a mistake from Arsenal by Mbeumo because it's good composure. But the second two are world-class strikes. They're absolute beauties. And that's what you want a Manchester United team to do, to play with some level of thrill and risk. And they had confidence in the second half. They played. First 5-6 minutes of the second half, 10 minutes of the second half, they came out and popped it about. Really, really good. Michael Carrick's just doing his interview now here. And he'll honestly... known him a long time, he'll not get too up. And likewise, if he'd lost today, he wouldn't have got too down either. That's just the sort of character that he is. But he's definitely instilled a simplicity to it in the last 2 weeks, in the last 2 games, that I like about it. I like it's my favourite system. We've talked about it a lot. The idea of a talented player playing off a striker, 2 wide players narrowing in midfield, a back 4 that's really aggressive. I honestly... it's been a huge turn. Still not a point to get carried away. But certainly a point to suggest now that Manchester United have got an unbelievable opportunity from where they were 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, before the Manchester City game, where it was a real low point. It's a remarkable turnaround, and Michael Carrick deserves enormous credit. So do the players for what they've done. They've responded to whatever's being said to them, and we don't know what's being said to them in that training ground, but they are responding like they weren't before. Why? We'll always speculate. Ruben Amorim could be watching at home thinking, what the hell am I watching from these players right now? I'm sure he's bemused, as we all are, in terms of what the flip. But the magic has returned in the last week. The magic seems to have returned to the club momentarily. The feeling of how to play with the aggression, with the risk, with the great goals, with the attacking of speed, the counter-attack. It feels right. And I think one thing that this last week has told us, no matter where it leads to, is that is the way that Manchester United have to play. Because it's just felt right watching them. Now, that might not lead to Champions League football this season. It might be that they go and get beat by Fulham next week. Who knows what's going to happen? I don't think they will, by the way. I think they'll finish in the Champions League now. But that's why I think a number of players that commentate on Manchester United have been so angry in this last 5 or 6 weeks because of the likes of Everton and Wolves and West Ham and Bournemouth and Burnley and Leeds. 6 teams that have been really struggling, apart from Leeds maybe. And only 5 points were picked up in those games again, out of the 18. And in those games, we were at most of them, Peter. A lot of those games where Manchester United had opportunities to go into the top 4. And we're like, go on. And they didn't. And now they've done it. Because I genuinely believe there is a feeling that they are better than what they've shown. And they've proved it. In these last 2 games, they have really proved that they can get compact, they can stay together, they can be aggressive in their shape, they can spring out of that shape and play good football and counter-attack and hurt teams, and they can score great goals and they can get bodies in the box. That's it. Now, I'm not simplifying football, but there is a simplicity to how United do play football, with width and excitement, and then obviously all of them getting back as quickly as they can together. So I don't want to overcomplicate things, but I've really enjoyed watching them this last 7 or 8 days. I can watch this every day of the week because it's a beautiful form of football. They've been brilliant in everything that they've done, and they've beat 2 very, very good sides, the best 2 sides in the league, and they've beaten them, which means the players now moving forward have got no excuse, as I said last week, to drop below that standard. Don't drop below that standard in 2 ways: performance levels and work ethic. That's it. Perform to your standard and work to your standard. And if you do that, you might not always get the result, but you'll get the actual sort of compassion and empathy from the fans, because the United fans only want to see that, really, that there's an effort and there's an intensity to things. And look, and there's a quality. There is a quality there. And I've really enjoyed it. I think that it's been thrilling to watch these last 2 matches. It really has, and it's a remarkable turnaround.
Does Patrick Dorgu personify it in a way? You mentioned him in the commentary. He's gone from being a nervous left-back or left wing-back to a sort of thrilling inside left.
Look, I mean, to be fair, I just thought Patrick Dorgu, and I'll be really honest with you, when I watched him at left wing, I was a bit like that about him. Do you know something? You can't really say anything bad about Patrick Dorgu because he's a willing runner. He always wanted the ball. He always worked hard under Ruben Amorim. But you thought, what is he? How is he going to get Manchester United back to where they need to be? But then I think actually the first time we saw a glimpse of what Patrick Dorgu could be was actually under Ruben Amorim when he played him as a wide right. And I can't remember the game now because I've watched that many games with him over the last... It might have been Newcastle. May have been Newcastle, may have been Bournemouth. One of those two, I think. Where I thought, oh, playing a bit higher up with a full-back behind him, getting supported, he can play a little bit. He can actually be a good wide player. You know, he can be a good wide player. He can do a bit and he can sort of cause problems for defence. He can get crosses in. And then you just think, I think then the week after he put him back to wing back. And you thought, oh no. And I think where he's been used now, he's obviously a winger. He's obviously a winger. I mean, today's goal was absolutely brilliant. Jamie Redknapp actually just texted me. And I should have seen it during the game. Usually I look at my phone during the game to see if any, if anybody's texted me or something to see. Because sometimes you get a text from someone and he said it was like Yeboah's goal, the one that comes off the bar and just sort of. And he's right. It was a brilliant goal. So Dorgu absolutely does, I think, typify what's happened in this last week. But another player I want to mention actually is Dalot. Look, he gets a really harsh view at times, Dalot, off quite a few United fans. I actually think there's a half-decent fullback in there, me. And I watch fullbacks so closely. I think at times maybe he gets too involved. But I think he's actually good in the air. I think he's got a good athleticism about him. I think he's decent on the ball. I don't think he's a world-class fullback, but neither was I. But I think he does a lot of things. I think if he simplified his game a little bit, fed people, he made a great header at the end against Gabriel where he flicked it on, so he can defend his back post if he wants to. He started to be more aggressive in getting out to players and then getting back in. Used to be a thing that we did when we were actually youth team players at United under Eric Harrison. And Nobby Stiles did it as well. He used to put a rope around our waists. And he did the same with the centre-backs. And then there was 10-metre loops around these ropes. And you used to have to sprint out. And then the others had to sprint across with you, because obviously you're pulling them across with you. And then you had to sprint back in, obviously, if the ball got switched, because then the other left-back on the others. And it feels to me like Shaw and Martinez and Maguire and Dalot, they've got that real sort of what would be connection of the 10 yards between them, good spaces. Dalot gets out, he gets out there, he's with Ahmad. They then, if it gets switched and Arsenal do that, they get back in. So I think he's got something about him. I think he's got a 7 out of 10 in him every single week, Dalot. But because we've seen him at left wing back, we've seen him at right wing back, we've seen him exposed so many times. I actually think if he just played right full back and played there all the time, I wouldn't be getting rid of him in a hurry. Now, other people might disagree with me, but I think I know the position of full-back, and I think he can do a decent job for Manchester United. So Dorgu and Dalot, I think, represent where Manchester United were 2, 3, 4 weeks ago in terms of the depths of opinion and the depths of their performances. And now you see them with a little bit of confidence. And the rest of them in midfield, I think, look, Kobbie Mainoo coming back in. I mean, you see, to be fair, he's not at his absolute best today, but what you do see is a player. This idea, we were sort of conditioned to think that he couldn't play with Bruno Fernandes in the team. It was him or Fernandes. I mean, that's wrong. That's wrong. I think that Kobbie Mainoo's demonstrated that he can play in a 2 in midfield, even with Casemiro. He's getting on a little bit now, Casemiro, but even he looks different in this last couple of weeks. And they play nice little passes with each other. So, look, absolutely delighted with the performances. As a United fan, there should be a vibrancy. I don't know how many there were over in that far corner, 3,000 or 4,000. They stayed in at the end, and rightly so, because they've had some really tough days. But honestly, I think going towards the end of the season, I think there's a real chance that United can now finish in the top 4. Real chance. You like to think, come down this morning and you're in that car for 3 or 4 hours and you're imagining what type of game you're going to get, and that is not the game I thought we were going to get. It's not the result that I thought we were going to get either. I've been here a lot in the last year or two, and they're not a team that are easy to play against. It's always a struggle. Even Liverpool, when they played well a few weeks ago, it was 0-0. So to see a game that's ended up a little bit like a basketball game at times in the second half and it being 3-2, that really sets the cat amongst the pigeons a little bit. I think for both teams, I'm just thinking all these stewards that are around me up here with these Arsenal fans just looking over my shoulder. No, honestly, I think we should start with Arsenal. you're not going to win a league title and have it all your own way. It's not a bed of roses. It's never going to be a procession. You're not going to basically sort of be allowed just to sort of canter over the line at will. So they shouldn't be too down tonight, but that will rock them. If you were in that dressing room now, that will be a pretty low place. And Mikel Arteta, his coaching staff, will go home tonight and there'll be some searching. Right, come on, how do we pick this up? How do we reset? How do we get this right? What do we do tomorrow? Because that won't be easy, that one. Because there'll be a lot of people watching that football match. You just got a feeling before the game today, Peter, didn't you? This was a giant game that was going to be watched just because of what Manchester United did last week, the intrigue about whether could they repeat it and could they come again. Yeah, so I think that you're just thinking about what will be happening in that Arsenal dressing room. The fans will obviously be very down tonight. But there's a long way to go and they have to reset. They have to calm themselves. But they've not got a lot of experience in that dressing room of winning Premier League titles. And when you're winning your first one, it's the toughest. It's the toughest. For me, when I was obviously, I was helped enormously by the fact that there were experienced players that had gotten over the line. But if you think about when Manchester United won that first title, they lost it the year before to Leeds and then they won it. It's always bloody tough. And they're going to find it tough mentally. They're going to find it, you find it tough mentally, it means that you physically just feel it a little bit more as well. But they're going to have to get back on the bike. They've fallen over today. It's been a bad fall for them because they made some really big mistakes in that game. If we get to the technical part of the game, rather than thinking about the sort of the way in which the sort of world will present this tomorrow, it'll be that Arsenal are under pressure. I thought they played well in the first 20-25 minutes. They controlled the game, as you've seen Arsenal do so many times. They didn't let Manchester United out. All the game was down towards this end. But they weren't inventive enough. They didn't take enough risks. And they allowed Manchester United just to let it swing back. However, at the point where Manchester United just got a little bit of control, Arsenal scored a goal. Arsenal scored a goal at a point where Manchester United just started to play a little bit. In that last 5 minutes, I think United had 70-odd% possession. But their reaction to scoring the goal was terrible. And there was a telling moment, I think, when Manchester United got their first real counter-attack, when I think Mbeumo goes through. He's got Gabriel and Saliba coming back at him, and he turns back and he plays it to Bruno Fernandes, and Bruno Fernandes just snatches at it and pulls it past the near post. And Mikel Arteta, you can see him right down beneath us here, because he's a feature when you're at Arsenal, because he's always so active. He's fuming that they've allowed Manchester United to have a chance, because they've given encouragement. And then there was another chance straight after that, and then the goal came. And it was self-inflicted pain by Arsenal. It really was in that 10-15 minutes before half-time. Because United at that point hadn't really got going. They didn't look dangerous. They didn't look like they got the connections going. Bruno Fernandes had given a couple of passes away. But the way in which Arsenal reacted to their own goal going in, I think gave United real encouragement. And from the very first minute of the second half, there were only one team that were actually dominant, and that was Manchester United. They were by far the better team in the second half. Michael Carrick's men went in with positivity. Mikel Arteta came out, I think, and realised that his team had gone under a little bit and they were nervous in that last 10 minutes of the first half. Where's that nervousness come from when they've scored that goal? Where's that anxiety come from? How has it surfaced in this match? It happened against Liverpool a couple of weeks ago, didn't it, here, where they had a warning sign. Liverpool just didn't have quite enough up front, if you remember. Liverpool had lots of players missing in that game and couldn't go and hurt them. But Manchester United, they've got Mbeumo, they've got Ahmad, they've got Bruno Fernandes, they've got Mount, they've got Šeško, they've got Dorgu. They've got players who are really capable of hurting you, and they've been hurt tonight, Arsenal. And then he threw the kitchen sink at it. But threw the kitchen sink at it in a way which was... He half threw the kitchen sink at it. Mourinho came on. Ben White came on. I actually wanted to see... Was Martinelli sub, by the way, or am I missing something? He was, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was. I thought he was. I think everything. So I was thinking Martinelli, Madueke, Eze, Gyökeres, front four. Probably leave Zubimendi on with Rice and just change the front four. But that's taking Saka off. So, but anyway, I just thought he would get those 3 or 4 on really, and put the spontaneity and the instinctive play out on the pitch. But he still sort of went a little bit he went for it, but didn't really go for it, if you know what I mean. And I don't think the substitutions helped Arsenal that much. It didn't add impetus to the game like I thought it would. And they didn't do enough. And other than set pieces and those corners, Arsenal were really, really struggling in open play to break Manchester United down. And I think tonight, it'll take a little bit to pick themselves up.
So I don't know whether you experienced this. Obviously, you were in a team that was constantly chasing trophies and lots of them. And Arsenal are chasing all 4 here, and they have been excellent week in, week out. And in a sense, there's no logic behind the anxiety because you should trust them to win the games. But I speak as a football fan, you speak as a football player. And I know if I was an Arsenal fan, I would feel that anxiety because it's been so long and it's so exciting and it's so possible. So how, as a player, do you surmount the anxiety, which is perfectly understandable amongst the supporters?
Look, I can understand it a little bit from the supporters in, in certain parts of games where it's not going well. But I wouldn't expect Arsenal 4 points clear with a chance to go 7 points clear, 1-0 up in the game. I mean, they didn't fall apart, let's be clear. They didn't do, but they really did cause their own issues. I mean, the goal, to be fair, sums it up. The pass from Saliba into Zubimendi. Zubimendi, one of the sort of best controlling, composed midfield players in Europe in that position, making a mistake like that. And I wouldn't expect that level of anxiety to come into a team in January. I'd expect it to come maybe in March when you've got, say, 10, 12 games to go and people like us are really ramping the pressure up then and say, look, it's yours to lose and things like that, which will come for this Arsenal team at a certain point. But I wouldn't have expected it 1-0 up against Manchester United, who haven't created much in the game up to that point, in January. I really wouldn't. But they just did wilt. They wilted for 10 minutes before half-time. Manchester United got back into it. They go in at half-time, Manchester United, into a dressing room with Michael Carrick, who I think has gone, look, is that it? They've thrown the best punches at you and they've not done much. And by the way, they look a little bit nervous. Go out and play. And that's what Manchester United did. And I have to say, from an Arsenal perspective, in terms of that's what I think will damage them today. Is not necessarily just the result. The result's painful. But the way in which, when they watch that game back, they've approached it and the way in which they've handled certain moments in the game. This is an Arsenal team that are really reliable and consistent, very good defensively. They sustain attacks. They don't give teams chances. They don't concede 3. How long? 121 matches since they've conceded 3 at home. So we're not going overboard here by what we've seen. This is 3 seasons. Well, no, hang on. 120 matches home and away.
And away, yeah.
Yeah. So it's 3 seasons of football almost that we've seen where Arsenal have not conceded 3 goals. This is a monumental sort of moment here today where they've completely and utterly... falling apart's not the right terminology, but something's gone badly wrong here for them today. And we'll come on to why in a minute in terms of Manchester United's special goals that they've scored. But the way in which they felt out there on the pitch, and only they will know, but I can imagine that when you just sort of a bit nervous, a bit anxious, and you sort of close up a little bit and you play safe, and you lose that freedom and that expression in what you're doing, and that was that Arsenal team today, and they have to find out very quickly where that comes from and root it out.
Well, on that topic, how would you, if you were Arsenal, use this week? They've got the deadest of dead Champions League rubbers. They've won it, they're far away, they're playing a team that's right at the bottom and out of it. They've got a home game like that, and then they go to Leeds next week. And how would you use this week? I think I would concentrate. I mean, Mikel Arteta will probably change the team dramatically in the midweek, but I think he needs to concentrate wholly on going to Leeds next weekend and get a win. Put to bed anything that this is just a blip today. This is just a sort of a one-off. But yeah, concentrate. Well, look, you have to win the game in midweek as well, but they've got enough good players to be able to do that. But Leeds becomes very big for them. What they can't afford to do is go to Leeds and get beat up, and lose there, and all of a sudden they're 1 point, and then all of a sudden there will be questions asked. There will be people saying, oh... I mean, I walked up the stairs today here with Arsenal. I think Patrick Vieira in the studio before the game said now or never, and there was a similar feeling from Arsenal fans walking up. There was 3 blokes that I was talking to, and they were like, we don't win it this season, we'll never win. It's that type. You feel that. That is not putting pressure on Arsenal. That is how everybody feels. That's a good thing. That's because they feel like you're the best team in the league and the other teams around are really struggling. So they've got to get over that feeling that maybe everybody sort of, if they're don't go paranoid or insecure tonight and thinking that everybody's piling pressure on you. No, everyone's going to be asking the question because that's the question that will get asked until you go and win a league.
and those questions are going to come thick and fast. So get ready for Leeds next Saturday. Make sure your heads are right. Make sure you get back to clean sheets. Go and win the game. Be solid. Do what you do, or else you're going to get more questions. So nip it in the bud. Root it out inside a few days, and don't let that little bit of a sort of what would be... Don't let that disease that might just enter your dressing room grow, which it can grow if you get a few bad results. The disease of negativity and sort of the questions being asked, are they going to be able to do it? Can they ever do it? Will Mikel Arteta ever win a title? Will his team ever win a title? All that sort of stuff. They've got to get ready for next weekend. The Champions League game in midweek, they've done their job in that already. They need to concentrate on next weekend and make sure they're right for that match, because Ellen Road's a tough place to go.
It's promised to Manchester United, and the excitement is growing amongst the fans. Their victory over Arsenal made it back-to-back wins under Michael Carrick against the Premier League's top two sides. So, should he be considered for the full-time role?
I said we'd make every decision for the greater the good and the bigger picture for the football club, and not getting carried away with two massive results.
Would you like to do it beyond this season?
Listen, I'm enjoying it. You know, it's a fantastic position to be in. What happens next is I'm not going to be answering it every week, because it is what it is.
I think if United win every game from now till the end of the season, I still wouldn't be giving him the job.
Why?
I just think they need something, a bigger, more experienced manager.
I think it's right that Michael Carrick, to be fair, keeps the job to the end of the season, hands the baton over to a Thomas Tuchel, a Carlo Ancelotti, someone of that world-class still. That's what his job is now.
I don't believe he's the man to get Man United back winning league titles.
A lot of people saying that, Tim, but after these two performances, if he keeps going, surely he has to be in the reckoning.
He has to be in the argument, for sure. You said me 3 weeks ago, I remember you saying to me, he's got 2 games against Man City and Arsenal coming up. I said, well, I would suggest he drags them 2 out. But what about if he wins them 2 games? And that is exactly what he's done. So the confidence what that would bring to the squad and to Michael and his coaching staff is the fact that they can go on and win every game now towards the end of the season. It'd be very difficult to turn that job down if he was to get offered it after winning every single game since he took over. I don't think they'll be able to turn that down. It'd be too much of a risk, because Michael certainly would then leave Manchester United to go to another job, a huge job, a big job, and someone might reap the rewards of this fantastic manager, because I'm not getting carried away with it. It's been 2 games, but it's more than 2 games, Tom. It's against the 2 best teams in Europe, you were suggesting, Man City and Arsenal, and the way they've done it, the performance, how they've done it, I think it's been helped. He's brought Steve Holland in. I think it's a masterstroke. But he's got his own team in there now, and they go game to game with a clear week. So they're obviously well drilled. You can tell out of possession, in possession, exactly what's required of them. He's kept it very simple, which is almost the most difficult thing to do for a manager, and that is what Michael's done. And he's been fantastic since he's been a 10 out of 10 at the moment. So, he has to be in the argument.
Let's see what a Manchester United fan thinks. Bradley Tooth joins us now. Bradley, a lot of the fans are messaging in saying that they want Carrick to stay. What do you think at this stage?
I think Roy Keane's answer when he said if he wins every game until the end of the season, he wouldn't give it him. That's a ridiculous answer, because if he wins every game until the end of the season, Man United are in 2nd or 3rd, and it's been a really successful season. I think it's too early. Look, we've had 2 great results. We're in a positive position right now. Let's wait and see. The acid test is against the Fulhams, the Brightons, the West Hams of the world at home. Those are the big games that we need to be dominating and winning. And if we have a positive results in those games, then yeah.
These last 2 are bigger than those, surely.
Not in terms of size, but where we've faltered over the last few seasons is the winnable games at home, right? We've all gone into those fixtures and we've said, this is the time where the bloke's going to cut his hair, this is where we're going to kick on, we're in good positions, but we've not capitalised. We played good football. Yeah.
Come on, mate. I mean, if you'd have been the Fulhams previously, you'd have rolled them over, you'd have rolled Wolves over, and then you go to Man City and Arsenal, you'd be saying, now this is the acid test. Now you're going the other way around. Start feeling positive. Is it likely? I know exactly what you're saying, but is it likely on the back of them 2 performances that Michael Carrick will let them drop their standards
going into these next 2 games, which are winnable games on paper. No one give Man United a chance in that Manchester derby, and no one certainly gave them a chance yesterday, and they've won. They've won both of them games, and they've not only won, they've performed very, very well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. No one gave us a chance against Liverpool earlier on in the season. You know, last season when we're beating Man City, nobody gives us a chance then, and we follow it up with defeats. So we've got recency bias when it comes to these things. We know what we can do at our best, and we know what we can do when we're below our best. So I totally agree with you. I don't think Michael Carrick will let the standards drop. I think he has got something and is getting a tune out of the players, which is so good to see. It's not just the results, the performances have been absolutely class. You know, the goals were world-class goals in both games, in my mind, and it was brave attacking football, and it was great to see. But I want to be grounded, and I want to say that I want to see how we do against the Fulham before I go, yeah, get the contract out, sign it, and all of that jazz, because that's just the pain of recency creeping in.
No, I agree with you 100%. I think what they want to do, they've looked at what happened with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and they won't want to fall into that again. But like I said last week, you don't want to tarnish Michael with the Ollie brush. You know, this might be a genius of a manager. It might be very, very good. At the moment, he's won 2 games. You're absolutely right. There's no need to do anything until the end of the season. But if you win every game between now and the end of the season, I don't think you can turn anywhere else, because this man will go somewhere else. In Bradley, in your opinion and the fans' opinion, what has he done well? What has changed?
So the biggest change, I think, it's the aggression in the defending. You know, that's just been a joy to see. You know, Manchester United fans have been on the back of Luke Shaw and been on the back of Diogo Dalot. And in the last 2 games, they've kept the wingers quiet, which is where the threat has been coming from. And then our attacking has been, you know, good most of the season. We've just not put our chances away. But the defence gives a great base to lay the foundation to attack. And, you know, you have to give flowers to the likes of Dalot and Shaw. Maguire has been phenomenal since he's come back into the team. Casemiro and Mainu in the 2 have been absolutely great. But I have to look at that defensive solidity. And as much as Arsenal had the possession in the first half, the goal really came from a scruffy chance. And it was a little bit out of the blue. It wasn't as if we were unpicked and uncut and, you know, your defending's all over the place. I didn't feel threatened, and in that City game, I didn't feel threatened in that either. So that's really where Carrick has shown to be what, and you have to give credit to Steve Holland, to Jonathan Woodgate, to Johnny Evans in that. You know, if you look at how they defended, you know, they weren't both really quick defenders. They needed fullbacks to help them out and get them out of trouble. And the fullbacks and wingbacks and wingers are defending in pairs, and that's really where we've seen progress. And if that continues, who knows where we can end up this season? You know,
very quickly, if you win every game,
of course we do. All right, you know, the maths are clear. I think Arsenal will drop more points. I think City.
It's 12 points at the moment, which you've overturned in the past.
Did you hear that clearly? Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
You win the league.
You know, I don't think we're going to win the league, no. But if we did win all of our remaining games, of course we'll win the league. Arsenal will drop.
I think you still come up short.
You don't think Arsenal drop 12?
No.
If Manchester United,
I'd love to see you win every game. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think you will.
No, I don't either. But if we did, we'd win the league. The great thing about yesterday and last week is it was against anti-football, so the slowing of the game down. We showed that proper attacking football, aggression, being brave, taking on your shots outside the box can get you, rewards. And if other teams in the league took that stance, then we're in for a really interesting title showdown. And Man United aren't really going to be in the mix for that. But who knows where this title's going to end up now? Because Arsenal will be sweating after that.
Yeah, great performance from you and result. Bradley, thank you.
Thanks,
no problem.